What mysterious thing happened to you that you still can't explain? You/easygoer89 responded. Had my wedding ring fall off of my finger while I had my hand dangling out of a car window while driving. Very upsetting to arrive at the hotel I was staying at to realize it had slipped off. Wasn't in my pockets or in the car anywhere. Checked the floorboards, under the seats, console. I even checked the trunk and figured it was probably laying on the side of the road somewhere along a 60-mile stretch of interstate. But I was exhausted. It had been a very stressful day of travel. I checked into my hotel room, pushed my suitcase just inside the door of my room and passed out on the nearest bed. Didn't even stop in the bathroom to pee, or bother to get undressed or take off my shoes, just laid down on top of the hotel bed, went straight to sleep. Woke up the next morning and sat up looking at my ring finger, now minus a wedding band. I saw a glint of light on the desk by the window on the far side of the room. I'd been so tired the night before I hadn't even closed the curtains, so the sunlight was pouring in. I got up and walked over to the desk to see what it was. It was my wedding ring sitting by itself on the desktop. I must have stared at it for a solid minute trying to work out how it got there. I didn't have it when I came into the room, and I up until that minute hadn't even been on that side of the room. Still can't explain how it got there. You/deleted responded. I was on the periphery of this one, but it's still weird and unexplained. Anyway, I got a call from my wife while I was at work one morning. She was an RN and worked nights, so getting a call when she should have been fast asleep was unusual. She told me she had had a terrible dream that she couldn't remember, but something awful had happened to a member of my friend Dave's, obligatory not his real name, family, and that I should call him at once and tell him to check on his family. Now, my wife was sort the nexus of a lot of weird shit, so I didn't bother arguing with her, but just called Dave and let him know. He was a co-worker but had the day off, and assured me that everyone in his family, wife and 2 grandkids he was raising, were just fine, and to thank my wife for her concern. I called my wife back to let her know, and she just said, "No, something's wrong." I found out the next day that about half an hour after I called him, Dave got a call from his brother in Florida to tell him that Dave's son, father of the 2 kids Dave was raising, had hung himself. The son had been a junkie, but had been clean for quite some time and living with Dave's brother. He'd been clean for so long and doing so well that the brother and his wife felt confident enough to leave him alone while they went on vacation. While they were gone, the son relapsed and basically emptied the house of everything he could sell to fuel his drug purchases. The day his uncle and his wife were to come home, he hung himself out of shame. How the fuck my wife, who had only met Dave once or twice, and had never met any member of his family, had known something was wrong still baffles me. You/snootangerines4981 responded. It's near Christmas of 1980, I'm a young teenager in the hospital, MD Anderson, who was going to be spending Christmas and New Year's in the hospital. So it was extra important to my dad that he got me whatever I wanted for Christmas. I wanted a memory game called Simon. It was one of the IT toys to have that Christmas. Impossible to get, but my dad was going to at least try. My dad is at Toys R Us staring at the empty shelf where the Simon game would be if it were in stock. An employee with the name Matt on his name tag attached to his Toys R Us vest asked my dad if he could help him. My dad said he was looking for a Simon game. Matt simply said, "Follow me," and led my dad back to a warehouse area, and there was one Simon game by itself and, without saying anything, picked it up, handed it to my dad and walked away. My dad went to pay for it and a confused cashier asked my dad, "Where did you get this, because this has been sold out for days?" My dad said Matt got it for me. The cashier, more confused now, said, "We don't have a Matt that works here." My dad described Matt and how he brought my dad to where it was. The cashier is now freaking out because no one with Matt's description works there. Both my dad and he had an extra special Christmas that year. 5 Christmas later I wound up working at that same Toys R Us. You/thegoodson80 responded. I was shoving a cut of rail cars over a crossing. Pickup truck ran the crossing, around the crossing arms, and got hit by the rear car. After the truck came to a stop, I saw a man wearing white get out of the passenger side and then saw the driver get out. I assumed they were going to switch seats for some reason, drunk, no insurance, whatever. When the police arrived, I walked down to the crossing to give them my info. I asked if the driver and passenger were okay and they informed me that there was no passenger, luckily. That's when I looked at the truck and saw that the passenger door was completely smashed into the cab where the knuckle hit it square on. I asked my conductor, who was watching the shove, if he saw a passenger, and he told me that there was only the driver. You/Ruberg57 responded. Okay, this is a weird one. I was about to get on the feeder road to a busy highway. As I was approaching the intersection, I heard a booming male voice in the middle of my head. saying check your tires before you get on the highway. It was not a voice I recognized, nor was the radio on. I did a hasty U-turn and went straight to a tire guy I have used in the past. As he was checking the front tires, he turned the wheel to reveal the tire so badly worn you could see the metal exposed wires. My tire guy said, "Good thing you came in here. If you would have gone on the highway, that tire would have blown and you could have been killed." I know this sounds like bullshit, but it happened. Nothing like that has ever happened to me before or since. No, I am not delusional or on any meds. As I said, I did not recognize that voice. It was so jarring that I did that U-turn without even thinking about it. I posted this before and people said angels or some other divine interference. I am not a religious guy or prone to that sort of easy-out explanation. Still mystified after 10 years. I also have a UFO story with my mom and brother. Or another time. U/deleted responded. Story starts a similar way to some other stories in here. Was getting ready for school one morning in about 5th grade, put my socks on my chair, turned around to put on a shirt, turned back to chair, no more socks. Weird but whatever, I don't have time to question it. I grab another pair and head to school. The real weird part comes 5 years later. I'm 15, there's a big family dinner at my house. Dad decides to get fancy and break out the cloth napkins from our dining room closet that we absolutely never open. One of my cousins opens her napkin, which had been neatly folded and not touched since I was probably about 7. My parents don't host a lot of the family get-togethers, and sitting inside is one of my missing socks from 5th grade. No trace of the other one to this day, and am coming up on my 22nd birthday. U/Chris Michelle 1 responded. Not me but my grandparents' story. My grandpa may have taken 5 sick days off his entire career. My grandma was a stay-at-home wife. After he retired they both worked at a local flower shop. After about 15 years he never once took a day off. One day they were getting ready for work and he said he was feeling off and was going to stay home. She got in the car, turned it on, had a weird feeling, then decided to stay home as well since it wasn't like him. As she opened the door she heard a thud. Turned the corner and saw my grandpa bleeding from his ears. He had a massive brain aneurysm. She called 911 and they just so happened to be about 100 yards away from their house for whatever reason. Immediate surgery at the hospital. Doctors said the aneurysm is the type that if she would have been even a minute later and the ambulance wasn't right there, he 100% would have died. To this day she can't explain what told her to stay home. Whether it be a divine intervention, or being married for so long and knew something was wrong. But everything went so perfect for him to survive it. U/deleted responded. It's kind of a sad but bittersweet memory. My grandma, I call her Mimi, was on hospice. We thought she had a few weeks and I planned on going to see her the next weekend again. It was my first day back to work after the holidays and I all of the sudden felt really sick and went home, which is kind of difficult in my job, especially the first day back. I was standing in my bedroom trying to figure out what I wanted to do, kind of restless, and all of the sudden felt this huge emotional drop, like deep all-encompassing sadness. I could hardly breathe. I took a shower because it calms me, and about 5 to 10 minutes later my mother called to tell me my Mimi passed. I just said, I know. U/AlexJPG responded. I've posted about this on Reddit before but it's worth sharing again. I used to work with hospitalized pediatric cancer patients. If we knew they were going to die soon, we'd move them into a bigger room in the hospital so more of their family loved ones could be with them. Most of our patients died in that room. Well, one month I was on, we had a 2-year-old boy and an 18-year-old young man die within a week of each other in that room. After they died, another young woman who was in her late teens moved into that room to live out her final days. When people are dying they go through periods of being completely lucid to being completely incomprehensible, and everything in between. Well, one of the last things she said before dying was, "Who is that 2-year-old boy in here and who is that 18-year-old boy in here?" That is, she correctly saw the previous 2 patients who had died in that room just before her. She didn't know these patients or know that they had died. U/Great Neo Dragon responded. One time, when I had my old diabetic cat, I had just finished going through the morning ritual of measuring his blood sugar, feeding him and giving him insulin. I always waited until he ate before giving him his shot, and was getting ready to head out for work when his portrait, yes I have an portrait of my cat that I had drawn up on my wall, fell down all of a sudden. As soon as it happened, I stared at it and the thought, my cat is going to go into insulin shock today, came to mind. I'm always meticulous with checking his insulin and sugar measurements and double-checked to make sure everything was correct. I figured I was just being a weirdo and went to work. As I drove back home after work, I teach college so they're not regular 9 to 5 hours, my roommate called me to tell me my cat was in insulin shock. Turns out right after I had left for work, my cat had thrown up. Thankfully, he was fine, and I got his sugars up, but that was such a weird experience. U/Northstar0566 responded. Was asleep with my girlfriend in our bed one night. This was roughly around 3 a.m. from what I recall. Our bedroom door was wide open as normal facing our living room and kitchen. We were both awakened in the same moment as a voice called out, IMGO 000000000D. Was a voice that sought or crackled as the words came out. And what sticks out to me most is that I could feel the sound vibration hit the bed as it happened. Not like a massive vibration or anything, just imagine someone yelling at you from 5 feet away, you feel it. It immediately awoke both of us and my girlfriend grabbed me asking if I heard that. I sure as hell did. For some reason I got up and ran to investigate. Turned all the lights on in the house. Investigated the area down the hallway. Nothing was there. To this day we still talk about it and it brings goosebumps to my arms. We slept the rest of that night with all the lights on. Just one of those things. I don't fixate on it. I don't have an explanation for what happened. But it definitely happened and both of us were there to experience it. I guess in the moment I thought it was cool something unexplained happened to me despite it being a rather scary moment. U/individual626 responded. One time I lost my engagement ring and almost my mind lol. I was going to give one of my dogs a bath, so L took my engagement ring off and put it in my pocket. After the bath, my fiancé asked for my clothes to throw them in with the next load of laundry. I forgot about the ring in my pocket, so I just tossed over my clothes NBD. A little while later I noticed I didn't have my ring on and I started looking all over, then remembered I had put it in my pocket. I did some research and took apart the washer and dryer to find nothing but some lint, a shoehorn and change. About 2 months later my fiancé's father sends me a pic of my missing ring saying he found it in the visor of his SUV. Neither of us had been in his vehicle that whole time, nor had he paid us a visit, so it was really bizarre that it came back to me that way. I'm super thankful that it showed up, but I'm still at a loss for words lol. U/Thenas responded. When I was in middle school getting ready in the bathroom, I felt this random urge to look behind me at the door frame. I glanced up in the mirror and then I whipped my head around. I can't prove what I saw and I know our minds like to play tricks on us, and I was in a super bad place mentally at this time. But a completely black spirit or shadow was staring at me with red beaming eyes. A hefty size. It looked like a big fat shadow man with red eyes. Peeking at me from the door frame, and when I turned around it quickly hid back behind the wall of the hallway. I swung the bathroom door closed so fast and I was so utterly shocked and speechless I didn't say anything to my parents and I just casually continued my routine. Then I mentioned it to my friends and they were just as confused. I still cannot explain it, but I remember it so vividly. Every time I think about the way this thing stared at me, I'll literally get mild chills and my heart races or my eyes water. I swear this ain't no stupid bullshit Reddit horror short story. I saw it. The way the outline of its body was wispy like black smoke and its bright red eyes, the fucking way it swiftly hid behind the wall. It's crazy. I never ever experienced anything like that again. Even at my lowest point. I don't know what the hell that was, but it still haunts me to this day. I just can never forget it. U/rudest_boy responded. Growing up, me and my brother were latchkey kids. I was in 7th grade, and my brother was like 2nd or 3rd grade, early 2000s. We would be home alone from the time we got home from school until our mom got home around 6 p.m. One day we were watching TV in our living, and there was a loud thud like something fell in one of the bedrooms at the end of the hall, then the pitter of feet running. I turned to look down the hall, and then running towards us was, guess like a goblin gnome Rumpelstiltskin thing? It honestly looked like a small 2 to 3 foot tall medieval peasant. I couldn't believe what I saw. It ran down the hall, past us, and then out our back door. I watched it the entire time. It's not like I saw it out of the corner of my eye. I remember looking over at my brother, and he said, "Did you see the little man?" And I immediately started crying, grabbed him, then our cordless house phone and sat on the front porch to call our mom, and told her to come home. I've never had any paranormal experiences before or after that. We don't come from a religious family, or one that believes in that sort of stuff. We weren't watching anything scary. I really don't know. Me and my brother are both grown now, and we'll still tell that story sometimes camping at parties, and I can tell most people don't believe us, but it's true. I've read of group shared hallucinations, but really don't know what else it could be. U/Forest Cervix Road 524 responded. I was driving along a desolate section of highway in rural Idaho. The sun was going down, so there was still some light out, but it was getting dark enough that cars had turned on their lights. I came around a corner in the road and could see a set of taillights in the road in front of me, maybe a half-mile ahead. I keep cruising along. I'm in that situation where the car in front of me is going slightly slower, so after a bit I catch up to the car and I'm just going through the paces of the turns and straightaways of the road, following this car. I'm watching the road. We go over a short bridge, and as soon we get to the other side of the bridge, the car I was following just veers right, straight into a field. Dust kicks up everywhere. I pass the car just off the road and it's upside down. I look in my rear view mirror and can see that it is upside down in the field. Now the crazy part. I pull off into the shoulder, turn around, floor it back to the bridge, and there's nothing. No car. I pull over, jump a fence and run into the field. Nothing. I shine my flashlight into the field. No car. No lights. No dust. No tire tracks. No busted fence. Fucking nothing. No, wow, a car just flipped off the road, and there's nothing. I spent another 45 minutes driving up and down the road looking, thinking I may have misjudged where it went off, and I have no idea what happened, but I never saw the car. U/Cal_Andy90 responded. When I was a kid, about 4 or 5, I would sometimes go downstairs for a while and then come back up to my room during the night. My parents noticed this but weren't too worried, as they assumed I was just using the bathroom or getting a snack or something. One day I come back upstairs in floods of tears, saying that the lady is gone. She said we can't talk anymore. Obviously my parents found this very odd, asked about the lady, and I explained that I would go talk to a lady that cleans the kitchen. My parents just assumed I'd been sleepwalking or something. Fast forward about 7 years to when my younger brother is about the same age. We're all in the car and my brother says he's been having some really strange dreams. Mum asks him what they're about and he says that there's a lady that cleans the house at night, but she's really friendly, and the dreams feel really real. Everyone in the car just goes silent. No one says anything for a few seconds, but you could feel the "what the flying fuck" vibe in the car. No one had ever told my brother about this. Ever since, LD always felt very, very weird when going downstairs during the night. I really wish me or my brother could remember the mystery woman at all. But neither of us have any memory of it. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, you might enjoy the rest of my content. Check it out.